Okay, good morning world. How are we today? Okay, this morning, what are we talking about? Just a couple more things that the, government's done wrong here in Australia. So in my news reading this morning, I came across a couple of things. Number one, just quickly, why on earth would the Australian government be allowing non-citizens, non-Australian citizens, access to the first home buyers grant or scheme here in Australia? Like, why? Do you know already, like, the huge, I'm talking probably around 40% of homes bought in Australia are actually bought by foreigners. Like, so let's just say, for example, wealthy Chinese people who might make investments in our property market and then rent them out, create a portfolio here in Australia. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, we already, like, I don't understand how all of this stuff is not, like, monitored in such a more strict way than what it appears to be currently, because I don't understand how firstly non-citizens can have access to any kind of government schemes here in Australia. It doesn't matter whether it's to do with buying a first home or whether it's to do with health, what it's to do with. Okay, so there's that. And then number two, that I was reading about this morning was about how since 2020, like say 2020 to 2024 in Australia, that the government has, and when I say the government, I'm specifically talking about what we refer to here as Centrelink, right? That they had illegally cancelled over 300,000 welfare payments to people. So that could be for anything from like job seeker to parenting payment to disability payment, and that was done in an unlawful manner where people weren't given appropriate time to respond to things, or like why they missed an appointment, or why they didn't engage with a particular like a job seeker mutual obligation. And it's like, because this whole system is run like by an automated system, like a computer, there's no like human considerations. And the fact that they've allowed a computer system to automate and like run all of this, I mean, I don't know how that's still allowed after the last robo debt incident, but apparently it is. And all these people have notifications sent to them that their payments are getting cancelled, and that it was like a minister, I believe it was to do with like, what is it, like jobs and whatnot, like Minister for Jobs and whatnot, employment things. I believe it was from that, had come out and said, you know, to defend what had happened, because obviously it makes the government look really bad. To defend what happened, they've said, oh, you know, well, like 40 to, let's just say 70% of these recipients aren't actually eligible for the payments anymore anyway. So it's not technically illegal cancellation against them, because they went out and found work, that puts them over the income threshold after their payment was, cancelled. But it's like, yeah, these people were starving to death. You've cancelled their payments, and they have gotten on a bus and they've taken themselves around town and spent days looking for paid work. Can you imagine the desperation and the stress that they would have gone through, knowing that their payments have been cancelled? They're deemed not eligible. Some people don't question things either. Like, some people are scared. They're intimidated to call up Centrelink, Services Australia, whatever, and cause any kind of a fuss. Like, people are intimidated. They view this as like, oh, it's the government, it's authority. You can't talk back to the government. You can't, kick up a stink with the government. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And you should. Because just because it's Centrelink, just because it's a branch of the government, doesn't mean that they are always correct. Doesn't mean that they are above being wrong and doing things wrong, being caught for doing things illegally. Yes, you should make complaints. Yes, you should make reports to whoever. That's how things like this information that's come to light, that's how this has all happened, is because people made complaints. People kicked up a stink, and yeah, it's just like some people, like years ago when I used to get it was like a family tax benefit payment, which like every parent gets that from Centrelink unless you earn, I think it was like over 150,000 or something like that per year. And anyway, and then the amount that you get depends on what your household income is per year, right? And so years ago, it was like a very small amount. It was like literally like, I want to say like around $60 a fortnight or something that they were giving me. Anyway, just dealing with them was a nightmare. And, just because they're giving you that like $60 a fortnight, like $30 a week or whatever, oh, you're obligated to do this and do that and give them this information, give them that information, and constantly update them about your contact information. And, oh, we haven't heard from you in a certain amount of time, you better make contact, and oh, we've got to look into this, oh, we've got to look into that, and it's like, would you just bugger off? Like, you're annoying me. You're being like the biggest pain in the backside ever. And like, you're not actually helping at all, really. I do actually really think that like half the time they're just not worth it. And I remember back then that they had done something similar to this, where they had like sent me a notification that was like, oh, you're I don't know if it was like a mutual obligation thing or what it was, but it was like, because I didn't respond to them within a certain amount of days or something like that, they like cancelled the payment. And I was like, cool, whatever, like keep your stinking $60 a fortnight, like who cares? But do you think that they've left it there? No, they have not left it there. They've like still tried to contact me for like years. Like just to like, oh, we need to update your information. Oh, you know, we can see if you're eligible for a payment. Like trying to get me that kind of. And yeah, I just like ignore stuff from them. They're just like a nightmare to deal with, you know. And I do think that they make it hard. I think they make it stressful like that so that, you know, maybe less people are inclined to apply for payments or like, you know, deal with them about anything. And but then like think about all the people who you know, like say single parents, you know, or yes, people who are out of work, or people who have disabilities and need some financial assistance and whatnot, you know, that should be getting some sort of assistance from the government. You know, I do feel like it's so unfair how difficult they make it with jumping through hurdles and doing this and doing that, you know, and then they've got a computer running the damn show. And, you know, the computer is like making mistakes because it sees things in ones and zeros instead of like in human form, in human real life interaction and understanding and circumstances and all these things that play a role in whatever's happened. You know, and then you've got all these people who, you know, should be getting some assistance from the government, having their payments just like cancelled, you know. And yeah, I feel like it's just ridiculous, you know. The government like spends all this time excuse me, sort of like defending itself about the Centrelink system. You know, oh, we're doing this, oh, we're doing that, oh, you know, well, 70% of those people who, you know, were illegally affected by us, you know, by cancelling their payments, don't worry, like they got employment anyway. So, you know, technically the number of people that we stooged is much lower than what you're talking about. It's not 310,000 people. No. It's more like 100,000. You know, because they ended up going and getting a job at Macca's anyway, you know. Yeah, that the people that had the disability, that have a really, really bad back and were like relying on a payment from Centrelink, you know, so they didn't have to do a job where they're on their feet all day and all this stuff. Yeah, no, she's working at Target now, don't worry about it. You know, like they're really good at deflecting responsibility, accountability for anything, aren't they? You know, it's like all of the politicians are like trained in like PR manipulation style stuff, aren't they? How to twist things, how to you know, tell their narrative in a particular way that minimizes you know, minimizes the problem, and makes it sort of like you're stupid even for asking about it. But yeah, look, the point I'm trying to make is just that, you know, once again, it comes out that the government has been stooging people, has been doing wrong by people. They knew about all of this happening since 2020. Which, by the way, I just would like to really, really clarify here that was all during COVID. Okay, that was all during COVID. That was when people were told you cannot work unless we say you can work. And you know, for a long time as well, the people that were told that they can work were things like, you know, police, ambulance, firefighters, and people who worked in any kind of healthcare setting. They were the essential workers. Oh, and politicians, of course. They're not going to lose a dollar. You know, everybody else, no, you have to still stay in your home. There's an 8 p.m. curfew for you. You can't go 5 kilometers away from your home. You're only allowed out to go get food from the supermarket. You know, and we'll let you know when you can work. We'll let you know when you're allowed back in shops again. Otherwise, it's click and collect for you. You know, because you're the scum of society now, and we can tell you what to do with literally every aspect of your life, including how much toilet paper you can have in your home. You know, so yeah, it was during all of that they were illegally cutting people off their payments. Now you tell me how any of those people, right, say it was 2020, say it was even 2021, you know, the whole crap with COVID and all of the rules and restrictions on us, that lasted a very, very, very long time. Very long time. Okay, there are still people walking around with masks, mate. Okay. Anywho, can you imagine it being during that time and your payment gets deleted, you know, and so you have no money coming in from Centrelink, and you're not even, how are you getting a job? How are you going to go out and get yourself a job to replace the income that has now been lost from your welfare payment of whatever type? You're not allowed to leave your home. It's COVID. You're not an essential worker. You don't even have a job anymore. Like, well, you don't have a job. You don't have any money coming from Centrelink. Like, do you understand the mental trauma, the stress that would have been caused to people mentally and emotionally? Okay. Let alone if you all of a sudden can't feed your kids, can't pay the electricity bill, can't pay your rent or your mortgage. Just think about that. Think about the timing of that. And then this minister wants to minimize this whole situation. Like 60%, whatever, you know, it's not really illegal against them because they went on to find paid work. Oh, did they? They went on to, did they? I would like to know the amount of people who developed mental health issues as a result of what happened there. I would like to know the number of, was there children taken away from parents because parents could not afford to pay for their home or put food on the table? When you told them that they couldn't work, they couldn't leave their home other than to go to the supermarket, how were they supposed to find a job? I would like to know how many people might have actually ended their lives because of what you did to them. Do you remember that man? If you're an Australian, and I think it was in Melbourne, so specifically if you're a Victorian, you would remember during COVID, that man who was so desperate. He had lost everything. He had lost all hope because of what the government did. And I would like to specifically point out because of what the Daniel Andrews government did. That man burnt himself alive in his car in the city. That's how he exited this world. That's what happened to him. Do you know how many people are pushed to the brink? The absolute last tether, gone, destroyed, nothing left to give them hope, nothing left to live for, because of the actions of an unempathetic, corrupt, I would say in many ways, it seems, government. Just think about the timing that we just talked about now with all those payments getting cancelled. 2020. I mean, I know exactly, you know, what all of that was like here. And, you know, if we didn't have the money that we had in the bank that was actually supposed to be for buying a house, if we didn't have that to live on for such a long time and do the things that we did to get our family through, if we had just been on Centrelink or something, and then that Centrelink payment get cancelled, I mean, what do you do when you have all of a sudden no income and you can't work and you've got kids to feed? Go out into the bush and forage, because sooner or later you're all going to start to starve. Sooner or later people will come knocking about where you live, whether it's a mortgage or it's a rental. Sooner or later your power gets cut off. Sooner or later things like cars can be repossessed. Can you imagine just slowly, you know, your life being destroyed like that? Just bit by bit, you know, the worst things happening to you and your family, and that it possibly all like was the result of Centrelink and their stupid computer automated system, you know, making decisions that cut you off. I mean, especially at a time like that, there should have been an absolute pause on everyone's payments. Like, no one could get cut off. No one. You know, it doesn't matter what the circumstances. We can look at that later. Okay. But when you're told you can't even work, and it's a pandemic and, you know, whatever like that, and you know, you have to stay home and all this sort of stuff, that is absolutely the worst time possible to cut people off from their payments, or to deny people payments if they're trying to get one. And even with that, you know, during COVID and everything, I can tell you now that unless your taxes were A1 up to date to that day, and you know, you have copies of this, that, and the other just laying around, easy access, printed out at home, whatever, you know, unless that was your situation, you weren't getting a payment. You were told, nope, sorry, yeah, we need this, this, and that. Oh, we've got to, you know, do a full fucking, sorry, excuse my language, a full, you know, investigation into, you know, your whole family income and income streams and, you know, situation and whatever, before we can approve a payment application and whatever. Like, they do make it like that for people. They do make it hard for people, because I think they are tight and they don't want to just keep handing money out. They want to have, you know, the least amount of recipients as possible on any kind of government welfare payments. You know, they of course they want to minimize the number that they are, you know, having to financially support. And, you know, that's also, I feel like, even with the cancellations of people's payments, you know, the fact that they were defending that with, oh, you know, they were getting, you know, paid work after that. It's like they're trying to point something out of, well, if we cut them off from their welfare payments, they go out and get paid work. You know, like, that's just the answer. But that's not, like, you're talking about people who are, like, kind of rotting the system and being lazy and things like that. That's who you're talking about. That's not everyone's situation who is getting a welfare payment. You know, sometimes people are just finding it really hard to make ends meet. Sometimes it's because, you know, the cost of living is so high versus what their income is. Maybe they've got a bunch of kids to also pay for. You know, maybe there is disabilities in the family. You know, there is so many different people's situations. You can't just like paint it all with the one brush and be like, oh well, if we cut them off, we've noticed some data here shows that if we cut them off, they go out and get jobs. So is it really that bad? You know, that's kind of like the attitude that they're going with there. And it's the wrong attitude. Again, it's like when rich people are just really you know, like unrelatable to the general population. You know, like when Kylie Jenner is like taking all these photos of herself with all of her like handbags behind her in her wardrobe, that's like, one of those could buy your house, and she's got like 200 of them. You know what I mean? It's like that unrelatableness. Like that's what government officials are all like as well. You know, they've got their millions and millions of dollars and their portfolios of properties and their trust funds and their this and their that. They're living in a completely different world to any of the people that they are making any kind of decisions about. They are. And it's stupid to have people who are so far removed from your situation making decisions about your situation. Do you know what I mean? Like, why aren't there, it should be like a policy in every department of government. There should be a policy to have like, you know, a Joe Blow. There should be like a Bob and a Jane and a Sarah, you know, like in each department that's just a normal person, like just a representative of the people, you know, that gets to like hear about proposed policies and legislation and whatnot, and have like a really big say about it, like how that will affect people. Like coming from our perspective, because I don't think they actually take any notice of, you know, when we like kick up a stink. It takes a lot of us to like kick up a stink, like with what's happened with the budget recently and stuff. You know, a lot of people have to be like protesting something to the point that then the media jumps on and starts questioning things because there's so many people barking about it. And then the government is like, oh, you know, this doesn't look good for us. We better address this, you know. There's a whole process before they care about you and your life, you know. And if there's no people, not enough people kicking up a stink about things, then they will just run their narrative and sweep things under the rug. And, you know, it was a headline for like 1 second maybe, and then we're talking about something else and nothing gets changed, nothing happens, there's no accountability and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, I highly doubt that anyone in the government is going to, you know, be in trouble or be held accountable. I doubt there'd be any compensation for the lives that might have been destroyed. And yes, I know that sounds extreme, but yes, lives can be destroyed by the government deciding that, you know, they're going to cut off your payments, or, you know, you're not eligible for a payment even though we're telling you can't work. You know, just making it so hard, and you know, to the point that people are pushed to the brink even sometimes. But yeah, anyway, there's my rant this morning about the stupid things that our government does. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. You all have a good day, and I will see you all in another video soon. Bye.